A reading from Psalm 111. I will give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart, in the company of the upright, in the congregation. Great are the works of the Lord, studied by all who delight in them. Full of splendor and majesty is his work, and his righteousness endures forever. He has caused his wondrous works to be remembered. The Lord is gracious and merciful. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we join with the psalmist, and together in this assembly give thanks to you, O Lord, for the blessing of your grace and mercy. You have blessed us in so many ways, yet on this special occasion, the Williamson College of the Trades joins with thanksgiving for the blessing of the life and legacy of Henry Rowan. We thank you for his life that was well lived, and we thank you for his work and passion that still follows him. As a community, we fondly remember the time spent together a few years ago here on the Williamson campus, and we remember the conversations of a shared vision which Henry had within his heart. Lord, we are ever grateful for his life, and especially for his family that are gathered today. We pray on this, the first Rowan Day celebration, that all that is said and all that is remembered would continue to reflect God's glory and wondrous grace that surrounds this college. All which we ask in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Speck. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome not only our students, staff, and faculty, but our trustees that are sitting here in the front row and guests, and of course, Lee Rowan and Virginia Smith here, that are our guest speaker, to talk about Rowan Day. So today marks the beginning of a new and important tradition here, our first annual Rowan Day. It's the day we remember and honor a man and a family that did so much to support this school. Nearly 10 years ago, Henry Rowan gave Williamson a gift that altered the future of this school. We can never thank him enough for that, and we'll gather every year going forward to make sure that anyone associated with this school will know about it and remember. We also want everyone to know something about Henry and Lee Rowan and the Rowan family and what they stand for and why they decided to be so generous to Williamson. So as you all know, this building we are in right now was named Rowan Hall in Henry Rowan's honor almost a year ago today. It was a way to memorialize Mr. Rowan's commitment to Williamson after he had passed away that December. He provided a gift to the school that was truly transformational, and he gave it at a time that it was badly needed. The school was in a difficult financial situation and was in danger of dropping some trades and reducing the number of students. Our endowment was not sufficient to support our mission. Hank Rowan stepped in and made an investment in our mission through his extraordinary endowment gift. Henry Rowan began giving to Williamson in about the year 2000 after learning about our mission. He believed in our school, he liked what we were doing, and his gifts continued year after year. But in 2007, seeing the financial situation we were in, he decided to step it up. He decided he would increase his support to help us out. The thing you need to know about Mr. Rowan was he was a hard worker, and he did not believe in taking the easy way out. He grew up with a single mother and raised chickens early on for extra money. So instead of merely just handing us a gift, he decided he wanted to give his gift to have a lasting impact, and he decided to offer a challenge grant. This meant that he would match each gift we received until we reached his proposed goal, but it had to be from people that had never given to Williamson before, or those that had given but had a substantial increase in their amount, because he felt like more people need to know about Williamson, and this was a way to motivate us to go and find those people. It was while soliciting gifts for this challenge that we had the opportunity to approach a gentleman named Jerry Lenfest. Jerry was a philanthropist here in Philadelphia who had made a lot of money on selling his cable business a few years before. We went to him to see if he would help us in meeting Mr. Rowan's challenge grant. Mr. Lenfest said he would not give to the challenge grant, but he had a different idea. He said he would donate $20 million if Mr. Rowan would also do so. Wow. Because of Henry Rowan's decision to meet Jerry Lenfest's challenge, we nearly doubled the endowment for the school. The interesting part of all that is that was right before the big economic crisis in 2008 and 2009. And there is some conjecture that the school might not have been able to even survive that downturn if we had not had this gift at the time we had it. And both Mr. Rowan and Mr. Lenfest later said, if you had come to me a year later, I would have had to tell you no. But they had committed, so they followed through. The school, if it did exist, would certainly not be what it is today. We probably would have had to decrease enrollment and cut programs at a minimum. It would not be the Williamson that we all know and love. Henry Rowan's name will forever be a part of Williamson College of the Trades because of who he was and what he did for us. But the story does not end there for the Rowan family. Through the past 10 years, gifts from Henry Rowan and his wife Lee and the Henry Rowan Family Foundation, which includes Virginia Smith and her spouse Manning, their son Jamie, and their daughter Rowan, have had a significant impact in critical areas for Williamson: scholarships, capital, and endowment. Lee's very significant capital and endowment support to the power plant technology program was recognized last year by naming the program the Lee Rowan School of Power Plant Technology. It enabled us to renovate the building we are now in today. When it'll be finished in January, we'll have more space in the dining room. Gifts from the Rowan Foundation have significantly helped us to offer scholarships to our students by supporting the Williamson Fund. How many schools out there can say that 100% of their students attend for free, or that they graduate debt-free? Because of the Rowan's generosity, we are not just surviving, we are thriving. We are stronger than ever, and our programs are ready for expansion and improvement, resulting in an even better education for those students that are sitting right here. As you can see, the Rowan family has made a transformational difference here at Williamson. They did not do this for personal recognition, but because of their strong belief in our mission. They liked what we were doing here, and we are all better off because of that. It's now my pleasure to introduce our chairman, Bill Bonenberger, to the podium to say a few words. You all know Bill, a class of 1979 brick mason graduate of Williamson College of the Trades. Bill worked for Toll Brothers for a couple years before he and his wife Janet decided they were going to go it on their own and start their own business, just the two of them. And WB Homes is now one of the biggest builders in the Philadelphia area. Bill has been a generous supporter of this school for a long time and really started getting engaged as a graduate by going with Reverend Speck down to the Dominican Republic and working with the students and giving back in that way. He joined the board in 2003 and became our vice chairman in 2005 and became the board chair this past September. He's been a generous supporter with his resources, time, volunteering for many different committees, and continually seeking to find a way to make Williamson even better. He's proved an invaluable help in continuing the Williamson mission and stands as a shining example of what a Williamson man can be and should be. Please join me in welcoming our chairman, Bill Bonenberger.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a very special day. Lee, Ginny, speaking as both a trustee and a Williamson alum, I'd like to say that the entire Williamson family owes your family a debt of gratitude that we could never possibly repay. Not just for your financial support, but because you believed in us. You believed in these young men sitting out here. You believed in our mission. And that put a kick in our step that we never had before. And I cannot express our gratitude enough in words. Thank you. As President Rounds just stated, your financial support came at a very critical time in our history. It's the primary reason these 270 or so handsome young men are able to pursue an education at Williamson that will positively change their lives forever. They will graduate not only with skills, but with core values like faith, integrity, diligence, excellence, and service. They will learn a work ethic and leadership skills that will carry them through their careers and throughout their lives. These are some of the exact same values and traits that Hank Rowan possessed himself, and those he appreciated most in the people that were closest to him. I graduated from Williamson from 1979, and I can tell you firsthand what a difference a Williamson education can and does make in young men's lives. Hank Rowan once said, and I quote, "Education is still the single most important means of changing a person's life. It is what made the difference for me, and it's meaning him, and it's critical that our investment supports superior education for as many students as possible," end quote. Hank Rowan believed in the importance of quality education, and he knew that education, combined with those previously mentioned core values and traits, were some of the surest ways to lift financially deserving young people to a better life. Hank Rowan wanted to help young men at Williamson get the education that he knew would be life-changing, not just the students of today, but future students as well, for generations to come. That's why he set up the Rowan Endowment, to help us make sure that Williamson would be able to continue its mission for future generations. In that respect, he was an awful lot like our founder, Isaiah Williamson. Both men believed what we are doing here at Williamson, both men believed in what we are doing here at Williamson, and both wanted to see us continue that mission for a long time to come. I'd like to share a little more about the man, Henry Rowan, or Hank as he preferred to be called. Hank was born in 1923, just after the end of World War I. He was the third of 4 children. Hank Rowan passed away in 2015 at the age of 92. To say he packed an awful lot of living in those 92 years would be an understatement. Like all of our students here, Hank came from humble beginnings. He grew up with little money, raised by a single mother in northern New Jersey from the time he was 6 years old. From an early age, he took an interest in making money through enterprise and hard work. His mother made sure he did it the right way and did not take any shortcuts. He developed his lifelong desire to learn and achieve, and he wasn't afraid to take risks, even as a 9-year-old. At the age of 9, he started his first business, raising chickens and selling the eggs. His first customer was his mother, who needed a steady supply of eggs to feed her 4 growing children. The price they agreed to was 25 cents a dozen, which was the wholesale price of eggs as published in the New York Herald Tribune at the time. Wanting to teach her son how business really works, his mother made him pay for the chicken feed rather than just give it to him, and she wasn't about to pay retail prices for the eggs either. Because Hank had no startup capital, he had to pay a premium for his feed. He could only buy it in 10-pound bags, and that was about double the cost per pound as he would pay if he could get 100-pound bags, but he didn't have the money for 100-pound bags. He quickly learned with the premium he was paying for the 10-pound bags, 50 cents worth of chicken feed every week only produced 45 cents of revenue. Now you can imagine a guy like Hank, he just thought, if I work harder, but the harder he worked and the more eggs he produced, the more money he lost. That was a real dilemma. Fortunately, Hank's mom gave him a 100-pound bag of feed for his 10th birthday. With the infusion of the new capital, he began to finally turn a profit. He not only learned a great lesson in how business is done, but also learned the importance of being frugal and using what you have wisely. These are lessons we know well at Williamson. Hank began studying science at Williams College in Massachusetts. His education was cut short when World War II started. In 1943, at the age of 19, much like our freshmen and juniors, he enlisted in the Army Air Corps, which was the predecessor to the modern-day Air Force. Hank was patriotic and he wanted to serve his country. In 1945, at the age of 22, he was certified to fly both the legendary B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-29 bomber. Within weeks of Hank getting his wings, both Germany and Japan surrendered, and he was never able to actually fly in combat, something he regretted very much. But he did continue his love for flying through the rest of his life. After the war ended, he used the GI Bill to earn a degree in electrical engineering at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, also known as MIT, probably the preeminent engineering school in the world. After graduating with an electrical engineering degree, Hank began his career working for Ajax Electrothermic Corp. In Trenton, New Jersey, where he learned about both the sales and manufacturing of induction furnaces. Always thinking and always coming up with new ideas, he was driven to improve the furnaces and components that Ajax was producing, which he knew would benefit his customers and therefore his own company. I think it's safe to say that Hank Rowan was exhibiting some of his core values here: diligence and excellence. He offered Ajax several ways to improve the design on their furnaces, but they were not interested in innovation or producing a product that would make their customers more competitive. Their motto was simply, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That was never good enough for Hank, and he was starting to believe that Ajax may have lost its way. In 1953, while still working 60 hours a week for Ajax, he was asked to design and build, at night and on weekends, his own induction furnace for an old client. This was a side job for Hank. He got paid $500 for it. At home in his garage, with his wife as his engineering assistant, Hank built what he declared to be the most advanced 60-pound induction furnace anybody had ever built. Full of confidence and frustrated at Ajax's reluctance to innovate, he sold his newly built family home, and with his wife and 3 kids in tow, he invested the profits in his own company, Inductotherm Manufacturing, and began manufacturing the induction furnaces he had designed. It was tough getting a new business off the ground, but he persisted, and when he got his first large customer, U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, a contract he took right out from under the nose of his previous employer, Inductotherm was off, and he never looked back. Today, his company's furnaces account for more than half of all induction furnace systems in the world. His original company is now part of Inductotherm and has grown to include 40 subsidiaries in many countries around the world. And the Rowan family continues to be involved in the company. His daughter, Virginia Rowan Smith, who will speak in a moment, serves as the chair of Inductotherm and as group vice president. Hank Rowan, much like Mr. Williamson, was not content to simply build great wealth and then spend it on himself and his family. He believed, as did Mr. Williamson, that with great wealth, even though they had worked very hard for every penny of it, came great responsibility. Hank Rowan literally gave away hundreds of million dollars in his lifetime and beyond through his family foundation to many worthy causes. Yet I think if you asked him, he would not describe himself as a typical philanthropist. I think rather, Hank would describe himself as an investor. He invested in institutions and missions, and he believed in institutions and missions that were educating young people and preparing them to be successful in life. It was not easy to meet Hank's standard to be an institution that he invested in. Remember, one of his core values was excellence. He required it from his employees, from his suppliers, and from the institutions he invested in. Fortunately, after a lengthy courtship, and Mr. Rowan doing his own due diligence on Williamson, he came to the conclusion that Mr. Williamson's mission and the unique way Williamson educates young men and prepares them to be leaders and respected members of society was something he could and should invest in. That was truly a great day for Williamson. Not just because Hank Rowan invested his hard-earned money in us, but because he believed in us. He believed in each of you students sitting out there. He believed in your potential. And he wanted to make sure you'd have the opportunity to achieve it, and not only you, but the generations to follow you. Gentlemen, if you want to learn more about Hank Rowan, the man whose name will forever be inscribed in this building, if you want to read about what traits and values, entrepreneurship, work ethic, and leadership it took for him to achieve his goals and build a successful billion-dollar company, I urge you to read his book entitled The Fire Within. I can tell you I started reading it this week, and you can't put it down. It's available at the Rowan University bookstore online. In closing, Hank Rowan did not attend Williamson College of the Trades, but he believed in it mightily. He believed and lived his life according to many of the same core values that we work so hard to instill in each one of you. So that when you walk off that stage the day of graduation, you'll understand what it means to be a Williamson man. Hank Rowan doesn't have a Williamson diploma, but trust me, he was a Williamson man. And if he were here today, I think he would be sitting right in the middle of all you students, and he'd be smiling, and he'd be proud to be called the Williamson man. For you young men sitting in the audience this afternoon, unfortunately, you're never going to get a chance to meet Hank Rowan, at least not on this earth. But you owe Hank Rowan a big thank you, because he helped make your education possible. Because of him, Williamson College of the Trades will be here for a long, long time. For those of you who have a long association with Williamson, our next speaker needs no introduction. He has been extremely involved in many aspects of the school for many, many years. In fact, he's our longest-serving trustee. For those of you who are new to the school, Mike Piotrowicz joined Williamson's Board of Trustees in 1989 and has been rolling up his sleeves and helping to lead ever since. He truly is a tireless supporter of Williamson and an excellent representative of what we're all about. He has done much to further our mission, much of it behind the scenes. He is the founder and president of Legacy Advisors, LLC, in Plymouth Meeting, a company that provides financial consulting, sales, and service in the areas of estates, businesses, succession, and investment planning. It is my pleasure to ask Mike Piotrowicz to come to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. What a great day it is to be part of this great institution. I may be the most fortunate speaker because I've had the opportunity to know the Rowan family for more than 20 years. And first thing I want to do to Lee and to Ginny is to extend my apologies, and to Hank, who may have set off that alarm to tell Bill to stop talking about him so much. They don't like the fuss. They don't, the Rowan Day, all that kind of thing, that's not, I'm going to tell you, that's not what these guys are all about. Mr. Rowan surely wouldn't want that, and I know Lee and Ginny, and if Manning and Jamie and Rowan were here, they would say the same. But we sincerely appreciate your being here with us today to help communicate who Hank Rowan was and who the Rowan family is. And that's important to us as an institution. President Rounds and Chairman Bonenberger said it really, really well. They talked perfectly about the gift and gifts that the Rowan family has made. Hank, Lee, Ginny, Manning, Jamie, and Rowan all have supported us financially. And equally as important, they talked about the quality and integrity of Hank Rowan and the Rowan family. Somebody has to take the lead, and Hank was always the guy to do that. He was a very special person, and we're all very lucky that he met this institution and touched us in the way he did. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, Jenny Smith, I want to take a pause for a moment. And to the students, I want to try and give you a little perspective of what we're talking about here at a very high level. The Board of Trustees that sits up here and the administration, we struggle with the financial aspects of supporting this institution every day in some way. But to you, I think it's important to understand the basics. So try and stick with me and pay attention. We have two sources of revenue at Williamson. We have something called the endowment, which is kind of this pot of money that we can invest, and we try and invest it prudently for safety and growth. And we, by the rules of the endowment, can take a certain amount of interest off of that every year to support the institution. Okay, we can't touch the principal, but we can take a certain amount of the interest off of that. And then we have something that is commonly called unrestricted giving, where people make donations to help just support the school each year so we can pretty much pay our bills and meet our budget. And that money can be used in any way the Board of Trustees sees fit. So the challenge is, how much can we take from the endowment and still have it continue to grow for future needs and fighting inflation and things like that? So as President Round said, Mr. Rowan's gift, when he first started his pledge, his initial pledge, together with the Lenfest contribution, and with what has been done for endowment through the Rowan Endowment since that time, is now actually more than half of our overall endowment. So our endowment is roughly $100 million, okay? Of that endowment, it's broken down into two pieces. There's the Rowan endowment, which is $60 million, and our main endowment, which is $40 million. You get the impact? Okay? So where would we be without that 60? As President Rowan said, probably in a difficult position, okay? Now, we'd like to take maybe 4% off of that endowment, but we have to take 5, okay? Because if we took 4, we could have it grow better, but right now we take 5. So that's pretty good, right? We have $5 million each year to support the institution. That's great, but our budget is 7, okay? So we need another $2 million to support the organization and pay our bills. And that's where the unrestricted giving comes in. So we go out into the community and we solicit funds in an unrestricted way so we can meet our budget, so we can do the things that we need to do and pay our bills. We call that the Williamson Fund, okay, our unrestricted giving. It's called the Williamson Fund, and people contribute to the Williamson Fund. So we need $2 million a year to support the Williamson Fund so we can make our budget. So we had Henry Rowan over here with huge endowment opportunity and contribution, and now on the Williamson Fund side, we have the Rowan Family Foundation. And the Rowan Family Foundation is the largest supporter of our Williamson Fund. So because of the Rowan Family Foundation, for the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, we've been able to meet our budget. And without the Rowan Foundation, we would be in a very difficult position to do that. So if you listen to those numbers and you hear 50% of the endowment and 25% of the Williamson Fund, you know why we're here. We're here to give our thanks, express our appreciation, and help you understand the impact that the Rowan family has had on the Williamson College of the Trades. Now, those two very critical aspects are one thing. There's a little side job that this woman over here did for us, Lee Rowan, Mr. Rowan's wife, and she's like bought all that equipment in the power plant and endowed the power plant, and she's paying for all the expansion here of the dining hall, so we can all be together and share meals as one again. So that just happened in addition to all of those, all we're doing with the endowment and the Williamson Fund on an unrestricted basis. So gentlemen, that's finance overview of Williamson and the importance of what the Rowan family has meant to us over these years. Challenging times remain ahead. We're not rich by any stretch of the imagination. Okay? We have deferred maintenance, which one of our trustees, Tom Goki, is in the process of doing an extensive study on. We're kind of afraid to get the real number, but we know it's going to be big. We have buildings to repair and maintain. We have salaries and benefits to pay. We have technology to enhance and implement. We have curriculums to advance. We have programs to install. This endowment will undoubtedly need to double again, and the Williamson Fund will go beyond $2 million. So we have much work ahead if we're going to stay cutting edge and continue to provide the education that we want to provide for each one of you and those who will follow you all in the future. As I mentioned, I'm fortunate, very fortunate, to know the Rowan family. And although our relationship is a business one, we are truly friends. I know these people really well, and I'm proud to count them as my clients and, most importantly, my friends. And what I want to tell you is, with the Rowans, it's not about the money. It's what Chairman Bonenberger said when he talked to you about believing in you, believing in who you are now, the opportunities you have now, and who you will be when you walk over that stage at commencement, and then the productive citizen that you will be when you enter the workforce and the world ahead of you. It's not just about the money. It's really not. It's all about each and every one of you sitting out there today. Williamson has benefited unbelievably from the Rowan family, and I know you will make them proud and be grateful for their generosity. We're one of the few institutions in the United States that can say that we offer a free education. But hopefully, after my comments that I just shared with you now, you'll realize nothing in this world is free. Somebody is paying for it. Someday, hopefully, you'll be here to kick in and pay a little bit back yourselves and help those that are going to be after you. No free lunch. It's a cliche, but it's a reality. It takes a lot to run this place, and thank God we have people who are helping us as we continue to forge ahead. It all started with Mr. Williamson, and then in 1957, the tragic fire, Mr. Wanamaker stepped in, and now we have the Rowan family. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to continue on and carry out our mission. It is a debt we truly can never repay. And while we are thankful, we also will be prudent, we will be diligent, and we will be frugal. We will continue to live our core values and help graduate men who will be productive members of society. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you to the Rowan family. Thank you very much. So I have the privilege and the honor to introduce Ginny Smith, but before I do that, I would like to just recognize Lee. She has a long speech prepared. She wanted to come up and share with us. I'm only kidding, Lee. You know, behind every great man, there's great woman, and Ginny's mom was unbelievable, and Bill referred to that in starting the business, and her mom, Betty, who was behind Hank, was just an unbelievable person. I got to know her at the later years of her life. I have had the opportunity to know Lee for 11, 12 years or so, and while Hank was making these tough decisions to support us, Lee was whispering in his ear a lot, and we really appreciate that. She fell in love with this place the first time she walked on campus, just like Hank did. And she was a big part of all of this, okay? But when Hank passed away, Lee wanted to make a difference in her own way. She, too, chose to focus on education. It was what she felt meant the most to her, just like Hank. She's done great work in the last couple of years in inner city Philadelphia and supporting elementary and high school students who are underprivileged and deserving. Get a quality education, and it's just been fun to work with her on those projects. And here at Williamson, she's just been unbelievable. As we said, she's been responsible for the power plant, named in her honor now, for that equipment. All you power plant guys might want to say thank you to Mrs. Rowan on the way out. She's paying for a lot of your education. It's really special. And then the expansion and renovation of the dining hall, which next semester we're all going to get to enjoy. And even just being in the part that's finished now is you can kind of get a feel for it. It's really something that has been a long time coming, and with Lee's generosity, it's been able to happen. So Lee, thank you very much. So our keynote speaker for the first Rowan Day, so appropriately, Virginia Rowan Smith. You know, to say Ginny has big shoes to fill would be maybe the biggest understatement of the day. Her father was a giant a giant in the industry and a giant in life. But I can tell you personally that I've watched for the last couple of years and witnessed those shoes being filled very capably. Ginny has really, really stepped up from a company and personal standpoint, and as her father said, she's a chip off the old block, and in many of his high-quality characteristics, she sure is. He was right. Ginny has accepted the responsibility of Inductotherm Corporation, as well as the Family Foundation, and is doing a remarkable job in each of those. Ginny's worked at Inductotherm since 1984, after graduating from Cornell and Cal Berkeley for her MBA. Inductotherm is the world leader in induction melting systems. And guys, maybe we should take a minute and put that in perspective, because I know Mr. Bonenberger mentioned the world leader, not like the biggest in Pennsylvania, not the biggest in the East Coast, not the biggest in the United States, not the biggest in North America. This is the biggest in the world, okay? The world, the whole world, all right? So, there's a lot of responsibility. That's big time, all right? We got some big time, these are big time people we're bringing here today, okay? So Ginny is chairing Inductotherm and is the respective leader of this massive international company. She's continued to do phenomenal work through the Rowan Family Foundation, together with her husband Manning and children Jamie and Rowan and Lee. She leads that family foundation to help those in the community who are less fortunate. And giving money prudently is not as easy as you think, and they take that real seriously. In her spare time, she serves on the Advisory Council of Doane Academy. She's on the advisory board of the Lake George Conservancy, and is also a trustee at Rowan University. Pretty busy life. On Friday, Ginny's going to be recognized by at National Philanthropy Day in Philadelphia for the Multi-Generational Family Achievement Award for the great work that the Rowan family is doing in the community. A great honor, again, one that we asked her to please accept, and kind of for us, she agreed to do it. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you a person who strives for excellence in every single thing she does, and most importantly, my friend, Ginny Smith.
Good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to be here among all of you students and the faculty, and of course your board and the administration, your alumni, but most important, the students. And I'm going to direct most of my comments this afternoon to you, because I want to tell you a little bit more about Henry Rowan. It was a year ago here at Williamson, when we dedicated Rowan Hall, that Williamson started a new tradition, Henry Rowan Day, or shortened, I hear today, to Rowan Day. Henry Rowan Day sounds fine. Today, we're celebrating our first annual Henry Rowan Day. Dad would have been pleased, I think, to have a day named after him on one condition: that people would not take the day off or close their schools and offices for the whole day. He really never quite understood why, when celebrating someone's special day, meant folks would be happy about not going to work. In his opinion, being able to work was a positive. And working at a job you love isn't something you really want to stop doing, no matter what day it is. To him, work was fun. He enjoyed working. He enjoyed the challenges that it gave him every day. In fact, in his book, the one that was referenced, The Fire Within, there's one very, very simple quote, not nearly as erudite as the one that was read by your board chair, but he said, "It's no fun running a company if there aren't new challenges to face, new risks to take, new horizons to explore." He had fun with these challenges. Now, many of you here have had the opportunity to talk with Mr. Rowan, certainly the board, and most of the faculty and some of the alumni. Maybe one or two students, not so sure. but most of you have not had the opportunity to meet him in person. You have heard a lot about him today and other days, and I expect several of you have even read the book. I trust it's in the school's library, President Rounds. So you don't have to go to, rowanuniversity.com, although that's a quicker way, because it's in the library. I don't know if Amazon has it, but try it out. The Fire Within. Today, I thought, especially for those who have never met him, that you should know a little bit more about Henry Rowan. Businessman, yes. Entrepreneur, yes. Benefactor of a nearby college, Rowan University, formerly Glassboro State. And you know that he cared about Williamson for a number of the reasons you heard this morning, and it's true, he did very much. Your mission is something that was very near and dear to him. In telling you about him, though, I wanted to relate it to you, especially you students, in terms and in words that relate to you and to the trades that you are mastering here. I followed this theme last year when I spoke, when we dedicated the hall, so some of the board has heard some of these comments. But I really think that because they're really written for the students and most of you have not heard them or have not met him, I wanted to do it that way. I'm going to start first with marine tool technology. First of all, and the board remembers this man loved tools, all kinds of tools. Machine tools, hand tools, all kinds of tools. Not just to look at, not just to collect, but tools used to make things. And when I spoke last year, I spoke in the lobby of Rowan Hall, on the stairs there with the glass cases behind, wherein you have tools. I was very happy to see that. Instead of little pictures and little sculptures and little flower arrangements, you have tools, and that was pretty special. I wish you could have seen his workbench. He had every tool you could possibly name. The easiest man to buy Christmas presents for, the easiest. Much easier than most. If the gift was heavy, he'd always say, oh, it's a good gift. It was a shirt box, never interested. But if it was tools, he loved that. He had probably three sets of almost every tool. Every kind of hammer, plier, wrench, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in fact, I like to say that he had Harbor Freight and Granger on speed dial. Staying with his workbench for a minute, I'd like to use that to relate to another division, carpentry. At Williamson, your emphasis, of course, is on a much broader coverage, because your training will lead to careers in construction and more. But he loved to design things, and he loved to make things out of wood as well as metal. When he lived in Rancocas, he and a friend who recently visited felled a giant tree, a big oak. It was 3.5 feet in diameter, big tree. They took it down themselves, very, very high. After they took it down, they cut it, they planed it down, and they were working with one solid piece of oak. It was 40 inches in diameter, 15, I should say in diameter because they cut it through, 15 feet long, and 4.5 inches, 5 inches thick. They did this from this tree that they took down. And then after they did that, he built a cabinet underneath of 20 or 30 drawers under it, all labeled hammers, wrenches, measuring devices, et cetera, et cetera. And it's quite a bench. In fact, I think I'll take a picture of it and send it to you for your archives. Masonry is the next. He loved cinder blocks and bricks, mostly cinder blocks. In 1950, he built a three-bedroom, concrete house with a cellar out of cinder block. And he also used those square glass blocks that you have, that you bring in light. You have some of those in your shop, I saw it. And he even made lamps out of those. He had the square, glass, and then he had the electric wire going through the bottom and the other part in the top, and the light bulb and the shade, and he had them for years, next to his bedside. Something he loved to do. One summer, he built a concrete platform to support a standing hoist on our dock at Lake George, so he could lift his half-ton starboat up out of the water between races. And he did the whole thing himself. You who are becoming masters in masonry, of course, have a much broader focus, of course, as you head for careers in large construction firms, and maybe some of you will own your own firm. Horticulture. Now, Dad was hardly a landscape design sort, but he was a gardener. He grew all kinds of vegetables and fruits, peach trees, plum trees, he had raspberry bushes, and he loved to cut down trees, dead ones mostly, because he gathered his own firewood and built his own furnace, wood-burning furnace in the house, so we needed the wood, and it kind of worked out. His favorite chainsaw, of course, was the Steel brand. I'm sure you know that, although he had 6 chainsaws, so, still his favorite. He knew trees, he knew all different kinds of woods, hardwoods, softwoods. He knew their characteristics, he knew their burning coefficients. Using his tractor, he created trails all around the property, outlining paths with straight trees, sometimes 8 by 8 inch bars, but using his carpentry, masonry, and machine tool expertise, he built bridges over the streams, he built culverts. In Rancocas, he turned a skunk cabbage swamp into a park. Now, paint and coatings. No, he didn't really enjoy painting per se, but he understood the importance of coatings. In building things, one needs to know how to protect everything from the elements. He understood paints and oils and varnishes. He was a stickler, for example, about coating the ends and the underside of boards, especially those used out of doors. You've seen that happen, I'm sure, where the deck has rotted, and there's no reason for it to have rotted because it was fully painted, except that the underside and the edges weren't, so that makes... Also in Dad's company, Inductotherm, we have a division. The name of it is Long Products. I'll explain. Well, how does that relate to coatings? Well, let's start with galvanizing. When you need to galvanize metal to keep it from rusting, you're basically covering it in air, giving it a coating in zinc. So one of our customers might order a 5-ton coil of wound metal, flat metal, maybe 2 miles long, which started out as a bar or a billet, more likely a bar of metal, much, much thicker. And then, of course, it would be heated and rolled, going through Inductotherm's equipment, and it would be rolled and flattened into a sheet of metal as it goes through that equipment at very high speed, used often or typically in the automotive industry. Power plant technology. Now, here you all have a new name for your facility where you learn how to run a power plant. The Lee Rowan School of Power Plant Technology. And Mr. Piotrowicz told us a little bit, quite a bit, about that. And I saw the book of photographs. It's phenomenal, terrific, beautiful, and you are very lucky to have this gift. But here at the power plant, you're involved with boilers, turbines, energy, saving energy, preserving energy, making energy, everything you need to know to run a power plant. You study the basic principles of electricity and wiring, types of power, fossil fuel, hydroelectric. Dad's company is named Inductotherm because its products involve induction power, wherein electricity is induced by a magnetic field created within a coil. Now, if he were running a power plant, he would want to be sure that it was the most efficient power plant on the East Coast, if not the country, if not the world. I've told you a little bit about Henry Rowan, the person, and how he can relate to you and the trades that you are studying and mastering. So when you come to class on Henry Rowan Day, this is the first annual, so next will be the second annual. When you come to class on Henry Rowan Day, you'll know who it stands for, and you'll know some of the reasons why he cared so much for Williamson, because he cared for you. He thought like you did. He believed in what you're learning. You can combine all of those, and he did and was successful doing it. His interests were a lot like yours, and he, individually, was a lot like each of you. Last year, when you were dedicating the main hall, naming it Rowan Hall, I told you that I thought maybe you now knew enough about Mr. Rowan to say, I'll meet you at Rowan Hall. And I thought maybe eventually you might even say, I'll meet you at Henry's or I'll meet you at Hank's. This year, I think maybe you know enough about Mr. Rowan that you could say, what are you doing on Henry Rowan Day? Or to be consistent with last year, I'll suggest, what are you doing on Hank's Day? Thanks very much.
This year, I had the opportunity of being a member of a special student committee. Our committee was made up of 2 students from each of our 6 shops who are handpicked by the shop instructor. The committee also included 2 faculty advisors. The committee's goal was to design and fabricate an award for Rowan Day. The Rowan Day Award Committee design includes a representation of each shop as well as Williamson's 5 core values. The 5 core values are surrounded by the trades, each of our 6 trades, and if you turn the core values, it then in turn rotates each of the shops together in unison. This symbolizes how Williamson's core values are the driving force behind everything we do. The award was handmade by students and will be presented to the Rowan Day keynote speaker each year. It was a pleasure to personally work on the award, knowing that will forever be a part of Williamson history. On behalf of the Rowan Day Award Committee and all of Williamson, I am very pleased to unveil the very first Rowan Day Award to Miss Virginia Rowan Smith.
The Rowan family accepts this with great gratitude. This is remarkable. It's a piece of art. It really is. It names all of your specialties: masonry, machine shop, paint, horticulture, power plant, carpentry, with the core values in the center of this. And it turns, so they're all working together to make Williamson what it is. So it's a beautiful thing. Thank you very much, and thank you.